When you stand back and look at different construction groups with our shop fabrication capacity, pushing 1 million square feet, and then also being one of the largest on-site contractors in the country.
Right.
So we're able to look at other jobs that other groups may not be able to. And I think what's really unique for us is when you bring us to the table, we're not going to really send you down like a preconceived path based on what our limitations are.
Welcome to Building Smarter Projects, a podcast dedicated to the dynamic world of construction and technology. I'm your host today, Brad Birck, and I'm excited to be joined by Mike Hill, who's our Manager of Modular Construction. Welcome, Mike.
How's it going, Brad?
All good. Well, Mike, you have a big job. I was really struggling how to introduce you because you're frankly jack of all trades. You have come into our organization, about a year now?
I think going on that.
Okay. And just have really brought a whole different way of thinking about how we do fabrication on some of these projects. So what got you to this point in your career?
Going back, I'd probably say, I think I'm on year 20.
In the construction world?
In the construction world. So came up in a fab shop, was doing kind of lawn care, janitorial services.
Yeah.
And then they offered me a job kind of as a helper, as a laborer at that point in time. So fabricating industrial strainers and such. So kind of started out as a helper doing prep, checking in fittings, went into welding, a little bit into fitting and such. Actually, I think it was 20 years ago, the guy that pretty much taught me how to weld was an ex-Enerfab employee.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, was down here on Spring Grove, and then when they started that new shop up there, he became the shop foreman. And then so here we are 20 years
Full
later,
circle.
kind of coming back around where it all
So we started our training program a long time ago on you.
Right. Yeah, I think it's
before we even knew it.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So it kind of went from there on the tools. I was probably on my tools for about 10 years and then started venturing into the office side of things. Held a wide array of different positions from did some design and procurement and estimating, and then past couple of years getting more involved with operations and such, and then joined the team about a year ago when you guys were starting the new facility out there in Harrison. Seemed pretty enticing. I'm from the area, so I've always known Enerfab for a long time, and I think got me here was really scalability. Looking at the size of the projects we're doing here was pretty good with where I was at, but we were kind of capped at what we were doing, and now seeing the size projects and capabilities we have here kind of really spawns the imagination of where we can go here.
Well, what excites you about that scale? What gets you thinking?
When you stand back and look at different construction groups with our shop fabrication capacity, pushing 1 million square feet, and then also being one of the largest on-site contractors in the country.
Right.
So we're able to look at other jobs that other groups may not be able to. And I think what's really unique for us is when you bring us to the table, we're not going to really send you down like a preconceived path based on what our limitations are. We really look at different projects based on what makes the most sense. What are we after here? Timeline, cost, and seeing really what makes the most sense, where somebody might steer you in a direction to where if they're heavy shop fabrication and not so much field service, they're going to push you on shop fabrication. Or if it's vice versa, if they want to do more field service, then they're going to say, no, we need to stick build this, stick build that. But kind of having a genuine mindset is what makes the most sense based on project constraints that change, on every project.
Sure.
I think it's big.
Well, and we've seen over the last few years this real demand from the market for those kind of ideas and for people to, because a lot of these projects are fast tracked. They're not all the way designed. There's labor constraints in the field. There's, schedule shortages. So one of the big reasons we started to develop that connected shop network, like you mentioned, close to 1 million square feet of shop now. We've been in the piping shops for a long, long time, but really kind of putting all that together, adding the steel shops, adding the modular capabilities, and really building that connected shop network. What are you seeing from the owners today along those lines? What are you hearing from the marketplace that really, you talked about how we had the on-site so the on-site construction, the off-site fabrication, but how has that shifted over the last few years to where they're looking for that hybrid approach? What are you hearing from customers?
I think the big difference is everybody throws around that term modularization. It's been around for a while, but past couple years with as many mega projects we have going on around the country and speed to market is big. So I feel like 10, 15 years ago, you heard the word module and you're thinking more process related.
Yeah.
Skids with pumps and heat exchangers and tanks and such. Now you're seeing an application where maybe it's not so equipment heavy. It's really just building racks and loading pipelines and such, but getting the pipe fabricated, installed, insulation complete beforehand, and kind of in that just-in-time delivery type of things. I think these projects are so big, so anytime you can move any amount of work off-site, just the risk mitigation from it. Right? Everybody likes to throw around that there's cost relation and there's quality relation. In certain instances, there is. But in our shops, once you break a point, we start doing things a little different than how you would do it on site. But those smaller bore applications and such, it's kind of the same techniques, but you don't have exposure to the elements and stuff. But I think the biggest thing is really any project, you have what you're trying to do, and it's kind of you're inside of a box. And if you put 200 people inside of a box, but you're able to remove maybe 30 or 40 of them and do that work elsewhere, and then let the other 150 people know, like, they'll be here in a predetermined time for a period to do the installation or such, it really relaxes, I guess, stress levels and the safety hazard side of things I think, is the big benefit. And then how do you associate a value with that? Is like somebody that doesn't do mega projects might not understand that, but just being able to cut down on congestion,
right,
and that just-in-time delivery is huge. Especially from a safety side of things, we've got a really big safety culture. So the more we can decongest work areas and activities and put them in more of a controlled environment goes a really long way. And then it's how you put a value on that,
right.
Beyond the gained efficiencies that you have in a shop inherently with equipment and such is a big thing.
When you see an opportunity, and maybe they're not thinking about offsite fabrication, or how are you having the conversation with the customer? What are some of the things you're looking for that makes you say, hey, this would be a really good opportunity to think differently?
Repetitive stuff. When you look at it, and we're seeing jobs that's got hundreds of thousands of feet of pipe and fittings. And I think really if you're taking on a project and you've got a destination that's in one location and you're only able to drum up so much craft and resources around that area. But like with our shop network spanning across the country, you're able to drum up labor, work with different material providers, different subcontractors from different parts of the country, and really scale it in the speed. And sometimes it's got a big cost advantage when you look at different labor rates and such of where the project's taking place. So I guess the big thing we look at is, hey, does it make sense to modularize it? Because certain applications it doesn't. It's like, well, we're going to introduce racking and skids, and by the time we figure the cost involved with that and assessing the project schedule, where it's going to be located, maybe it doesn't make sense to modularize it. But it seems like, I guess here in the past couple of years, is speed to market's huge. So you have a lot of OEM style systems that people want to build in bulk and have ready for when the opportunity comes. Is what we're starting to collaborate with a lot of groups on, is really just building up the inventory of modular systems and such. So,
this shop, the Harrison shop that we're talking about, just right outside of Cincinnati here, new shop for us. You came in pretty early into that process. What's it been like building a team,
Fun. I think it's first thing.
Have you done that before in your career, or is this kind of a new challenge?
I think this is probably, I call it my third go around at doing that.
Okay.
So it was a little unique. Like I said, 20 years ago, I was part of a service company, and they bought engineering line from a company out of Buffalo. So we were going to get into the fabrication business without having a deep background in it. So went through the ASME stamps and generating the manual and acquiring equipment and kind of building a team at that location, being involved with that from the ground up. And then second opportunity was similar but a little larger scale with a company that moved locations, bought a new facility, and wanted to grow their fabrication line. So was, I think, instrumental in doing that for them, helping grow the top line and offering different services. And then coming here in Harrison, kind of similar, just start again. So got experience knowing it's pleasurable, like walking into situations and seeing there was a good team there when got there, maybe just rearranging, trying different people in different seats and such. But the opportunity, demand being there, it's like, it's been fun.
Okay. What are some opportunities you see as far as technology is concerned? I mean, you almost had a blank slate, we're starting to fill it with some tools and things like that, obviously, but you can kind of do what you need to do to make it the way you want it. What are some opportunities you're seeing from a technology standpoint or where we're headed from a fabrication?
I think integrating what we're doing in some of our other facilities already. I feel like when I got the opportunity to kind of tour our shops up in Wisconsin when I first got here and go down to Evansville and see what we had going on down there, is I feel like here we're ahead of the game when it comes to inventory management, efficiency gains, having the proper equipment and using it, the right processes for the right applications.
Mm-hmm.
So some of it adapting what we've already been doing, but kind of looking at it from a different perspective, right? You take some of, like our Wisconsin shops been doing it for a long time. They have it. That's kind of things that work. If they're not broken, don't really fix them. But now we probably look at it as we have a different labor force here. We're going after different product lines. So how do we kind of take that, what they've proven to work, and keep pushing it further and further? So I think one of the big things is just with technology as a whole, data is everything, right? Words without data didn't take you.
So what does that mean when you say data is everything? Collecting that data at the point
Seeing that, right? So we're running different jobs and getting information back on weld counts, efficiencies, cut, fit, prep times to really be able to dial that in, really understand what we can do, what the market demands, and kind of, I feel like we're our biggest critics. So that's one thing that's nice about Enerfab. They got 120 something years worth of history. So I feel like we've got a good idea of what it takes to pull off some of these jobs and doing it now. Seeing as we go through different locations, maybe the workforce up in Wisconsin is hitting at a certain efficiency, and Indiana, we're at a certain efficiency, and then now being here in Cincinnati, what's the efficiency rate here? I guess how hard is it to scale up, scale back down, maintain this operational support that you need to do that? But I think that the data's huge. I think to go back when you're looking at the scale of these jobs, you've got 50,000 welds that's got to be done over a certain time frame, is bringing the comfort to somebody like, no, how are you going to do that? And it's like, well, here's what our shop here runs at with the X percentage rejection rate. Here's what this shop's running at, and that's how we're going to piece it all together, is based on the data we have and kind of proven execution.
And what's that doing? That's allowing you to be more competitive on your bidding. That's allowing you
competitive. I feel like it's the one thing, but what I've come to, at least my take on some of these larger jobs, it's not so much bottom dollar gets the job. It's really being able to show that you understand the scope of work, you understand what this project's going to demand, and you're capable of producing that over the time frame. That's been a lot. And, you might not be the cheapest number out there, but you bring a sense of comfort that you know what you're doing and you're going to be able to get the job done. Because what we're pulling off on a shop fab basis, the impact of missing deadlines or shipments or stuff is a lot greater magnitude on the on-site services
Sure.
if stuff's not showing up on time, or if you're starting to get reject rates or rework stuff when it's showing there. So having an efficient quality, and also I think our safety culture, is second to none. I think that's what really separates our shop network from others, is they don't sacrifice that.
Hmm. So, Mike, you talk about, bringing some of this, using this data and efficiency and things like that in a market where, at least from my perspective, it seems like you're getting less and less information on the front end. So having that knowledge and being able to see that system through to give that owner some confidence that we know what we're doing. So, maybe speak to that. How are you handling the challenge of limited information on the front end, and then having to multiply that by 50,000, and having the confidence not only to the organization that you have it covered, but also to the customer?
Which is fair. I think anybody that's been in the industry for a while understands that's been a reoccurring ordeal. You get less and less and less. Now it's a little more interesting because of the scale size of it and how fast they want it. So I think a lot of that just comes from wisdom.
Yeah.
Our experience is, and really with a place like Enerfab, because we're so versed on site, what it's actually going to take to not only install it, but maintain it, right?
Mhm.
Core of our business is maintenance relations and such. So I think it really enables us, when we're looking at a project, kind of see what's not on paper.
Yeah.
And we're mindful about, because the speed to market's the name of the game. So we're getting bid packages that could be a napkin sketch that we understand the concept, but we're able to take it amongst the team, say, all right, this is what you're showing. By the way, we need to factor in some of this other stuff
Sure.
to make this actually feasible. Not only
Bringing
just
that field
producing.
piece, they might say, well, you can build that. We can't even get that into the hole. We can't, so having that combination of people looking at it from,
Right.
hey, not only how can we fabricate it in the maybe largest, most effective way, but also how is the most effective way to install it once we get to the field, and how does that all come together to really fab the right, I guess, piece of equipment to fit the project.
Which goes a long way, because it's kind of, when you're looking at it from both sides, it's like, yeah, you can make it that big, but does it make sense to make it that big? Just that's everybody's goal, is put as much in it and make it as big as you can to get it there to do less. But in the end, could be causing you more work once you get there. And then really understanding, I guess, the life cycle of the product and maintaining it. So if you got to be methodical of how you're putting stuff together in stages, then just saying the what if, what if that equipment fails? How are they going to get it out?
Right.
And really raising your hand now to say, you might want to put some thought into this before you mass produce this and go take it out to the market. Then they realize your OEM system's not serviceable.
Right.
So
We see that so often. Heck, we get a lot of work in the field from that. As, hey, let's put a
Exactly.
platform here, a ladder here.
Yeah.
It's amazing how things get built with no maybe foresight or thought on how it's going to actually be accessed once it's put into place.
Which I think is big for us, right? Is just because you give us something and it's not always your way, is we're going to share wisdom, experience for what it's worth. Say, hey, you might want to think about doing this differently. To where if you're working with a maybe large shop that doesn't have any interest in that, they're just going to price what's there, build it, send it, go on with it.
Right.
I think being versed in all the areas goes a long way. It's a big benefit.
We're seeing different technology and material types in the marketplace now. So when you talk about, one of the ones I think about is this fiberglass steel we've been looking at a little bit in the data center space. But you talk about these ladders and platforms that maybe need to fit in a tight space after the fact, where the building's closed in. What are you seeing from these kind of hybrid materials, or looking at things differently that maybe gives us an advantage? Maybe the customer comes and says, hey, we want this box built, but they don't really know how. How are you looking at a variety of materials to really give them the best option? Things maybe they've never heard of, or maybe they haven't used before.
Right. I think it's another huge advantage. Like we said, is the mindset of what a modular construction is kind of changed. You may not need the big heavy duty welded steel, because you're having to account for vibration and stuff coming off equipment operations. That a lot of these are are essentially just utility pipe racks. So they're not really heavy wall schedules and big 600-pound, 1,500-pound flanges and such. It may be a couple 100,000 feet of just call it sked tin stainless pipe or something that doesn't inherently have a lot of weight associated with it. And I think our approach, looking at the different strut configurations and fiberglass configurations, is a big advantage for not only just cost but throughput. Right, it doesn't take as much. It really enables us to do more fitting and welding and assembly of the piping, and then collaborate with some others that can really. That it's obviously one part of when you're looking at a module. It's kind of, you have your procurement stage, and then you got to have your structure, and then your spool fabrication, and your assembly portion of it, to where we're able to scale the throughput by looking at an alternative racking system that may be appropriate for it, and then take those resources and really focus on spool fabrication and the assembly portion of it. And then I think really the buildings these are getting installed in also are changing, right? And I think they're not big industrial complexes that you're used to seeing that have a lot of robust steel structures and such, kind of like commercial building related. So weight mitigation is very important when you're talking about rigging stuff from trusses, and where before you might not have that. It might be ground mounted or in a large steel frame structure or something.
Right, because they don't have the roof to support it.
Yeah.
They didn't. Yeah, it's interesting as we get into, specifically these data centers and things like that. It's this mixture of this commercial world coming up and this industrial coming down, and somewhere meeting in the middle. And we're all using our skill sets to look at things differently. Because you're right. I mean, when you had to rig something into a power plant, well, you never really thought about it because there's going to be a steel structure somewhere, a heck of a lot big enough to handle what you were going to do. And now you got to think about that stuff differently. And then that changes the whole construction approach. It changes how you look at modularization. I think it's really an interesting time. And I think the time is now, obviously, as we've kind of really built this connected shop network, to really take advantage of this offsite fabrication that the customers and the market's demanding now. What do you see? What's some of the technology you're excited about from a fabrication standpoint? I mean, I was just sitting back thinking, your shop's so unique in the fact that a lot of shops do one thing or another thing. Hey, I fab pipe, now a variety of different types. I fab steel, I paint, I build a vessel. Your shop really does a lot of those types of things. So how do you manage a shop floor and the worker base when you're doing so many different activities, if you will?
I feel like we do a good job of standardization and operating procedures, which kind of goes back to, we know the tried and true ways to do things, and not with a mindset that we're not going to adapt. But if you go back, probably 50 years on how you cut, fit, prep, and do things, and tour around different shops, a lot of it's pretty similar, but you're seeing some advancements in some of the welding technologies and stuff with MIG applications and semi-automatic applications with positioners and makeshift manipulator arms and stuff. But I think it goes from, that's just the wisdom, experience, kind of lining out. We're fortunate to have some seasoned craft that know how to produce efficient quality results, whether it's pipe, plate, or steel. Taking the mindset that it's all pretty similar. I mean, there's a couple different tools depending on what you're building, but for the most part, understanding it starts with procurement and prep, and then fit up, and then weld out, whether it's steel columns or pipe spools or a vessel tank. Now once you get inside of them, some are a lot different, but for the most part, it's sequencing what you're doing and then making it fit inside of there. So again, going back to, I think we do a great job of our operating procedures and making sure as we're bringing on new team members, they get a sense this is how we do it at Enerfab, and share that with them. I think a lot of the crew that we have, whether they're in the shop here in Cincinnati or up in Wisconsin or Evansville, might be different than any other shop that we've ever worked in. I really understand the culture is safety, quality driven. We don't sacrifice that for nothing. we do a good job of making sure you've got the tools and the necessary information, and really setting the stage. I guess the time we allocate for a craftsman to do their job is we try not to get in too many as soon as possible scenarios. I think it all comes back really down, really starts at like a business development phase. Don't go out and tell them we can do a 6-month job in 2 weeks. Relay what it's actually going to take to do the job. And every once in a while, you may have a rapid response that comes about that you got to stick in there, but really just keep it pleasurable for everybody. So I think really you've seen 5-10 years, like pulse welding advantages and some of the work Millers and Lincolns and stuff have been doing to help increase efficiency and throughput's come a real long ways. I think we were some of the first shops involved with some of those groups when they started dealing with modified short circuit settings, and to really perfect that to what it was. It goes back to, that was back in the early 2000s when I started running it, when I was on the tools. And I think that advancement's come a long way from a quality factor and speed and I guess more user friendly. I go back to think when Fronius's first come out and they rolled them on the shop floors and they had 100 different buttons and they were so intimidating.
Oh yeah.
It was like most times they just sat over in the corner. Now they've done a good job of taking that technology, but only making it with a few different buttons. Or
well, I thought that was the whole beauty is that you could program it to you and then you didn't have to touch the buttons again.
Yeah, and I think that's about where we're at, right? You see shift change, guys are walking around with SD cards. They plug it into the machine and it's got all their settings and how they run them. And also,
you as a welder, did you think you would have an SD card to plug in at some point?
No, not quite. No, and I think it helps us from a quality control standpoint also.
Sure.
Right, being able to fix these parameters and such depending on the wire and gas combos and make really that range where they stay inside of those essential variables and stuff is really just inherently it helps you increase your throughput.
Sure.
As procedures are written and tested for a reason, produce sound welds, and so that's been the.
We got all that welding technology, but then you're seeing this, and not just didn't happen yesterday, but all this model coming in. So a lot more things are getting bid from models than they are from maybe the P&IDs anymore. How does that then flow into your saws and your different equipment? So I think there's a whole advent coming, at least for our shops, of even that next level of technology of how you're taking that. We already do it at our steel shops and things like that. Well, the detailers will actually send that stuff directly to the automated cutting machines and things like that. So I'm excited to see some of that technology and how we start to implement those different types of things in the shop. Another part of the technology that we do a lot is around, keeping the customer up to date on where they're at, where their projects are. So implementing, the view fab that we use in some of our pipe shops, in your modular shop as well. It's giving those customers that view into their projects so they can kind of see near real time, where it is. Is it in cutting? Is it in welding? Is it in, some sort of QC check? I think all that stuff really, customers feel more is they're so busy and they got so many things going on. They don't have time for a billion meetings and to come to your shop every week and check in like maybe they used to. So giving them those tools, those windows into their fabrication process, into our shop as that moves along, I think is such a valuable tool for the market for where it's at today.
Right. I think it's huge. I feel like we were just awarded a sizable job because of that. This kind of request was made was we hadn't worked with them before, and this was a pretty large company, top Fortune 500, and they had questions about how we track inventory, materials, and progress, and just not working with us. And shared a few snippets, which a lot of it can be found online on our websites, but how we do things. And I think by answering 3 questions was like couldn't write the PO fast enough, felt like they were in the right place to do that. And you kind of hear that from time to time. Companies ask questions and it's like, man, you must have had some really bad experiences with some other groups. Not that we've all been there.
Yeah, sure.
I think I claimed that was like, hey, the only reason is because messed a lot of stuff up in my time. Been a part of a lot of unpleasurable projects that either went under budget or went over schedule, and just being exposed to that, through the past 20 years is a big thing. But I think that people want peace of mind, right? People kind of want send it and not have to worry about it. And I think we all do. It's, human nature to, all right, you got it. Now I can go focus on something else. And but there's, I think, cost associated with, there's always risk assessment. And sometimes you got to understand that for that cost, you're going to have inherent risk with it. But I think we do a good job of being competitive in the market, offering all these advantages that some other people may not be able to offer, and stay ahead of that. I don't think there's shops out there that are running that type of tracking software on a regular basis. There may be some, but it's kind of proprietary to us, and I think our customers really enjoy it. And then really it kind of goes to the wayside after a couple projects. Once you get in, prove what you can do, then they know what they're doing. It may get you the first job, but then kind of execute it, and then they realize they don't have to worry about you.
Right. But they still have it if they need to check it.
Yeah, to go in there if somebody asks. It's nice to be able to
pull it up for a meeting or be prepared, just give them that extra tool in their tool belt.
Yeah.
To make sure they're successful, whatever they have to report or do. One of the other things I think is interesting when we, you mentioned it earlier in the conversation, modular's been around forever. I mean, we joke about it too. We were building modules for Juice World in the 80s and 90s. We were jelly rolling tanks for the brewing industry in the 70s. So it's not really a new concept per se. It was never marketed that way. It's not how we talked about it. It was just a better way of doing it, just figuring out a better way to get things to the field. But it comes back to that whole idea that we have that shop and field. And so having that mindset of, what's best for the whole team, not just for one or the other. And you can see that play out on these big projects when it gets delivered in a more efficient manner, and just how you can stage the materials, how you can have things maybe you wouldn't traditionally do in the field done in the shop for make it easier to flip or easier to lift, or, you kind of have that sequence. But I think one of the other things, I did talk about brewing and juice, but we didn't call it modular. But for a long time, it seemed like we just saw modular opportunities from the big OCG type people, oil, chemical, gas. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing a shift? Are you starting to see that from more customers than just your big oil, chemical, and gas people?
A lot bigger shift. And I think that's the preconceived is, like I said, for that long it was you were dealing with kind of OEM groups that had different systems, and that's what the market was. Now you're seeing a lot larger requests from the EPC general contractor side of things, that they're able to, their owner representatives come to them with a project, and now they're starting to request modular construction, so I guess that is the big difference. Is, like I said, when we look back 15 years and what we had a visualization of what a module was nowadays, because you really wouldn't have thought about that. And I guess it depends what the market's demanding from time to time. Is if you're really localized and you're feeding the tri-state market, maybe you're not going to see many applications for some of the modularization that we're doing. But if you're nationwide, the opportunities are pretty endless right now with the amount of mega projects that are going on.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody wants it done yesterday.
Well, there's a lot of opportunity then.
Yeah, it's good. No.
So what do you see in the future? What are some of your challenges that you have over the next year to really achieve what you want to? Yeah, obviously you have this vision of what this shop's going to be, and maybe you're already there. If not, what are some of the challenges over the next year that you're going to tackle?
Not getting landlocked is all kind of where our mind was. We had a vision that was painted before I came here, and I feel like only being a year in was, hey, we're out to the first phase here. So as we start entertaining more of this and active collaboration amongst our different regions and such, is the demand's definitely there. So I think our biggest challenge is going to be being landlocked and coming back to the group like, hey, we need more 100,000 square feet to add.
That's a good problem.
We already got, right.
We'll look for that.
Kind of where it was, and that was, like I said, going the third go round, is that's kind of how it's gone. The other two opportunities is once you get in and service a few of these groups is, how it is. And
just getting that traction, and then
rolling up. It's nothing new. It's just a new location.
Yeah.
Like I said, Enerfab's been around for 125 years or so, and continually grown and expanded, and I think that's for the most part what that was here is just bringing.
We have, but for me, this is like a microcosm of how we don't just do things the way we've always done things. I think, yeah, we've been around for 125 years, but, this is an example of, thinking differently and really supporting our customers where they're at right now. Building this Harrison shop really fit a lot of different things. And I think it's just so important to continue to think that way. It's like, hey, what we did 10 years ago isn't necessarily what we need to be doing, today or 10 years from now. And I think that whole modular, I mean, who knows what happens? Maybe the markets change and everything moves back to the field. Maybe we figure out how to build even bigger modular stuff. I mean, it'll be interesting to see where 5 years, where we are from today, but it only makes sense. My gut is that we do more and more the way you're doing things versus how we used to do things.
Technology advancements, one of the big things, with GPS and Google Maps, and again, data with transportation services and stuff. Some of the logistics partners we work with have probably been on every road in this country. So when we have somebody reaching out to us at a specific location and requesting modules of this size, it's pretty much a phone call away in a matter of a couple hours to say, what's it going to cost and how long is it going to take to get this there?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
I
it's
really
the
think about
partnership. If you dial it back, call it 50 years, having that.
Right. How would they know? There was
really wouldn't.
Resource. Somebody had to go drive the route.
Right.
And if there was construction, would you went to AAA and got your triptych? I mean, how would they
to do it? So knowing that, and that's one of the biggest things that sometimes is a afterthought is how you're going to ship these things and what's the backup plan of the backup plan. Some of these projects may run 2-3 years at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have the forethought of what does the Department of Transportation in that state have planned for the next 2 years. And hey, if we're going this route and they're going to be replacing that bridge at some point and not really getting locked out of a preconceived path, but just having backups to backups. I think getting it there is the biggest thing, and then it's interesting. It's fun.
So Mike, working out in the shop there and, obviously, you've been in it for 20 years. What makes this shop that you're running now a unique place to start? So if somebody's coming out of welding school, why the Harrison shop? Why work here in this modular shop? What are some of the unique things that they get to experience? Or
in a shop setting, the throughput is far greater. So there's a lot more eyes on call what you're doing, per se. So you're going to get critiqued a lot more. I guess when we're building thousands of spools per month, there's a lot of quality control and procedural stuff because when it's not
I guess
done right.
To your point, data too, so you can really compare.
Yeah, you may get the opportunity to learn a little bit more than maybe just getting thrown out. I guess that's a tough one. Because in being part of business that we do field work, we do shop work. Some people take better to shop work. Some people take better to field work. My mind.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah, it's like,
sure.
Hey.
Some people love that control, the same place every day, the same parking spot that they really and they love busting out as many welds as they can bust out in a day. Other people prefer the environment that comes with the field job.
Going out, seeing fair amount of, like I said, documentation and people being invasive about how you're doing it. This is what we're doing. So,
but I guess if you can accept that, that's your path to becoming the best, right? I mean, because if you can accept that criticism or maybe that learning, that teaching, then you're just going to be a better worker, I would think.
Yeah, and really, what you're after, I think times are changing. So again, as we're talking modularization. Right, there are certain things that we do out in the field that you'll never be able to do in a shop, but you're starting to see more spools, and the goal. We'll see a large project, and one of the stipulations is they want to try and mitigate 100% of field welding, as much as we can. So you're seeing. I guess if you're just now starting, you learn how a shop operates and procedures and ways of a production shop. now, I guess long term may benefit you, as in there's always going to be people that need to put it in and need to maintain it and handle it. But on these mega projects, like I said, the goal is to move as much offsite as you can. And like I said, I think you get the opportunity to learn from a lot of experienced welders, fitters, and such in the shop, because they got to be efficient. It's got to be high quality.
I don't know why I just had this whole like Buddy the Elf reference in my head as I'm thinking about him doing his etch a sketches, and he only got like what 7 done in a day, and somebody else got 30 done in a day. You know, I mean, that you're constantly being evaluated and compared. But I think if you think of it that way, that's a negative way to think about it. It's really a way to get better. You know, it's compared to, so that you understand what the expectations are and what's possible, right?
To do it,
push yourself.
I feel like that was part of. I said when I was back on my tools and had my own welding booth, and I think you're doing good, and you set a piece down outside, and then one of the wise men comes by and they're like, "What is that?" And you're like, "What do you mean?" You're like, "Oh, I don't know. Pick it back up. You know, grind it out, fix it." But being next to that on a regular basis, surrounded by people that, and they do it and make it look easy,
right?
You know, and half the time, and so you gain a lot, I think, in that side of things, and you see. I think people want to transition maybe later in their career, get out of crawling around pipe racks and different locations. They kind of would rather, you know, show up. Hey, here's your booth, your station, or this is where we're working. So there's a fair amount of wisdom that ends up in the shop at that stage, and then you can kind of learn from that.
Do you think this technology, and specifically the welding technology, is allowing more people to be proficient at the trade than maybe in the past? Is the barrier of entry getting lower for maybe some of the skilled trades, just because the technology is getting so much better? You know, you talk about the Feronius, where maybe there's a whole art of dialing in your gas and your temperature and your all that stuff every single day, where now it's kind of computerized, or you know, or the pulse MIG type operation. You know, it's maybe a little bit more, it allows for a little bit more wiggle room, I guess,
which is fair. I think, like I said, some of them companies and welding processes, that's come a long way. If you think, I guess historically, you figure some of the most sound, tried and true, call it like on a root process, has been like a manual TIG. Now with the modified short arc MIG, that's came a long way the past couple of years. From an application basis, is kind of holds its own, and it's a lot easier for calling a more youthful craft to pick up that MIG machine and do a semi-automatic MIG route than to take a manual TIG process and do it. So you're seeing applications. It's been around, but to really feel confident in it, you know, has been something that is just, I feel like, started to transition in the past 5-10 years as technology's finally caught up. I mean, you could do it, but it would take more seasoned craft to for sure know you're good, you know, when you're so it's definitely, I feel like you get better quality, more efficiency from this welding machine.
I think the whole training aspect is going to be interesting going forward too, because I mean, I think for, you know, obviously to be a good welder now, you got to go to class, you got to go to school, you got to spend a lot of time on it. It's like art, it's a craft, it's, you know, something you have to work at. But as that technology, I know some of the big players are working with different haptics, you know, the gloves and things where you can do it all virtual. So it becomes like a simulator, if you will. So I think it'll be fascinating when Xbox comes out with like Welding 101 or something, and people can sit in their living room and still have that kind of touch and sound and feel maybe through the glove or something that's hooked into the video game. I mean, does that spawn a whole new group of people that the barrier of entry was too big for them, but now that it's a video game, they're like, I can do this.
I mean, I feel like 20 years ago, I would have played that video game.
Right?
You know, yeah.
And then you practice on your own time. So say you're working a different type of job and you're like, man, I've heard my buddies making, you know, whatever in the pipe fitter union, or, oh, this other guy traveled with the Boilermakers and man, he just set himself up for a whole new life. But I don't know how I could ever get there. You know, I'm sweeping floors, or I'm doing this or that, or I'm serving tables. And, you know, if you have that ability to maybe train on your own and learn that skill, would that remove some of that barrier of entry? And
I think if you got a work ethic, you know, dependable, you don't need much.
That's true.
I don't know where it was at. 20 years ago. Was just
show up,
opportunity.
give a
comes up,
damn.
yeah.
You know?
That's what it is, and then it can be very rewarding and pleasurable. Yeah, enjoy what you do and be good. And then I think open multiple avenues to, just because you maybe start out as a welder or pipe fitter doesn't mean it opens you if you want to get into estimating or safety or quality control or accounting or anything. Like it can pass or
run the shop.
Yeah. It's like, it's really not a, now some people may come in and that's all they want to do, and that's fine, but I think when you think about scaling things is you gotta, that's the goal, is see, hey, and then how can we translate that and branch off to others? Some of your great welders, maybe you want to spawn them into being great teachers. That way they can kind of produce 10 more great welders or something, or some of the best fitters or so. Kind of help keeps it go around.
Right.
Don't feel like it's got to preconceived. You think of pipe fitters, pipe welders, and what it used to be may not be the case nowadays with technologies and such. It may not be as hard on the body, or
right,
as much hazards related and going on. It's a little different.
Well, that's what we talk about all the time, is we're talking about getting people into the trades. When we don't have shop class anymore, we don't have some of the places that you're exposed to it. And I think a lot of people have this antiquated idea of what the trades is. And so it's all of us, our jobs, to get out there and educate people. It's not what it was, 50 years ago. I mean, the trades now there's a lot of technology in the trades. There's a lot of opportunity for different type of work. To your point, I mean, you could learn a skill in the field and then end up being an estimator in the office. I mean, there's so many different paths once you get into that world that I just don't think so many people understand or know anymore. And so just getting that word out and educating, and, a lot of times, being so heavily in the unions, a lot of times people think, well, that's the union's job. They go out and recruit and educate. But really, it's all of us that love and believe in this construction world and know that the future's bright. If you were a coder today, I mean, I don't know how many jobs are going to be left for coders, with the advent of AI, but I sure know that a lot of things still need to get built.
You take majority of what I feel like we do on a daily basis, and you're not going to grasp it from a book or a computer screen. And
maybe you don't want to.
No.
Maybe you don't want to read a book or
like you got to get out and take the time and really just kind of be a part of it.
But the beauty is, when you're done with the day, you've built something.
I think that's what's always probably worked for me. It's like, hey, not saying the money's not good, but the money's always kind of been an afterthought. It's like, hey, I get paid to do this.
Yeah.
As a benefit. And people's like, you're crazy. It's like, enjoy what we do. And like I said, going out and helping people and providing solutions. That's in the background. I don't understand the pipelines we fabricate or the vessels or structures we do. It's tied to about everything we do in our daily lives.
Right.
Yeah.
So many people take that for granted. They don't understand how the electricity shows up at the light switch, or how the gas ends up at the pump, or, how the product you're wearing ends up, being made.
Yeah.
I just had a conversation with Daniel Ernest about loving every idea for 5 minutes. And I said, what does that mean? And it was basically the idea that if you squash everything right away, then no one ever has any good ideas, right? If you squash it right away, then people are afraid to bring the idea the next time or to think differently. And so I thought it was an interesting concept. You want to challenge people to think differently and to bring ideas. And the only way you can do that is by building a culture that allows for that.
Right.
And you as the leader, I mean, that's your job, right? Is to facilitate a group that everyone feels comfortable to bring those ideas, and then wade through all those and say, hey, this is the best option for our customer and for us to be the most successful.
We have a lot of that here.
Yeah.
Right? It's one of the pleasurable things is that it's a pretty big team collaborative effort, and people weigh in and feel like we all buy in on it, then we stand by it.
We don't give you too much help, do we?
No, it's balanced.
It's a balanced approach.
Yeah.
I think it's important to set the guardrails and what can we do from our standpoint, and set the vision, set the core values, that type of stuff, and then allow you to operate within those with your team. And I think that's going to be really important for you over the next year or two, as you're poised for some tremendous growth. As we're ready to rebrand the Harrison shop as Enerfab Module. and what that means for the organization and the growth that you're going to have. It's going to be so important as you bring on these new people to get them into your culture and to have that innovative kind of thought process, because the folks out there using the new tools or in the day-to-day stuff, they might be the ones bringing you your next idea.
Yeah. So that's kind of bringing it full circle. Right?
Exactly. That's where you
There
were.
it goes. Yeah. I think seeing it and saying, hey, once you have the opportunity to do different things and thinking back, I think that's probably been a big benefit, kind of going from role to role to role.
Sure.
And it's probably at some point in time was involved with, positions that make this thing go, and appreciating why things are done certain ways or how we can help this or help that goes a long way.
So as you go to grow Enerfab Modular over the next couple months, year, 2 years, however long it takes, what are you telling that worker who's looking for a new opportunity, maybe interviewed with us? Why are you telling them to come join the team?
For me, I think the core of our business is working with craft. That's what we do. We sell craft service. So I'm a third generation construction guy. My old man was in construction. His old man was in construction. So for me personally, it's been pretty rewarding. Open doors to different opportunities. So where I see is we're out in the different high schools and apprenticeship programs and such, is really just getting out with them and telling them, hey, even if you're not sure what you want to do, why don't you go try something in the trades for a little while? Thinking, I said going from a helper to where I'm fortunate to be able to do today, it's kind of seeing them and, hey, could have the same opportunities. And I feel like Enerfab's a good place to start, although maybe not.
Okay.
So my kind of viewpoint, I think when I got here, is a lot of people that's been here for a long time might not really appreciate the culture and the organization as a whole. So I think if people get out of here and get an experience at some other companies or groups, and then you get to experience the Enerfab culture, then you're like, this is nice. It's nice to come around pleasurable groups of people. And I guess, like I said, from a leadership stage and team collaboration and safety culture, quality culture, being around different contractors and other groups. Some people may not have ever got to experience that. So you don't realize you've got a good thing until you've had maybe a not so good thing.
Right.
Not in a sense that obviously if we see talent and people that come through, but they might actually appreciate it to the level of what it is without experiencing some other stuff first.
Right.
And that was in the last year. I think the big thing for me is some people might not know any better because that's all they know. That's all they've done. And then when I said being 20 years in now, it's like, that's all right, this is how construction is. And I think proof is in the scale of what we do.
Right.
Is that comes from that is huge, So I guess it is a great place to work and you want to steer people here, but just be mindful of that a lot of that gets lost, that when you're around high performing individuals and a team every day, may not think much of it, but it's a good team,
That's great to hear.
It's been pleasurable. Like I said, grateful for the opportunity.
Well, we're lucky to have you. I mean, you're changing our business and how we're doing things, and we're just really excited what the future has for all of us. But I think you're part of one of those dynamic groups that's really going to take us into the future. So we appreciate having you, and we're just excited to see what you do next.
Yep, be good. Another beautiful day.
Another beautiful day.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Building Smarter Projects. We'll see you next time.